How the hell are we? We are back. It is the Brew Party podcast. I'm Andy Hopper, the host that definitely doesn't know the most. So it's episode 89. I actually got it right this time. I know I said that last week, had to do the whole yoink. This is actually episode 88. Anyway, this is the Brew Party podcast. We're back once again, back from our little break. Hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving weekend. Had a nice break off myself. We missed this past week of Maloney's money line. Sad to miss Ryan 2 weeks in a row, but that's okay. We'll be back next week. We still gave the picks for you, albeit I think I went 4-4 again. I don't even remember what Ryan did, so not like they were anything to write home about anyways, but we're back, episode 89, and we are going to be making sense of Major League Baseball on this episode. Joining me are going to be two friends of the party, two very good friends of the program from Down the Block Sports, the host of the Alec Walt Show. It is the man himself, Alec Walt, and from Review and Preview Sports, Big Blue Avenue, hitting for the cycle, Hank Indictor joins the program as well. We're going to be breaking down the Major League Baseball lockout and, of course, some free agency deals as well. We're making sense of what the hell is going on, what Rob Manfred and what Tony Clark are doing, if anything, besides bitching at each other and bitching to the media about each other to get things done, to get this resolved. Alec and Hank each give me their takes on everything, what's going on. We break down what each side wants, all of that good stuff. Stay tuned for this awesome conversation. We actually recorded it on Friday afternoon. I was hoping to get this episode out a little earlier this weekend. Turned out I had a busier weekend than I anticipated, so it's out now. It's Monday. We're back. We're feeling good. Brew Party Podcast, episode 89, baby. Good to be back. Good to actually have some time to record this. Hopefully I'll be able to get this done before I have to go to work. But we also throw in some MLB free agency stuff as well, because that was going on. The MLB lockout happens in the middle of a huge free agency period. Guys getting just insane money. We talk about some of the deals that have already been made, some that we like, some that we dislike. We have a Red Sox and a Yankees fan joining us. They each break down their off seasons. Obviously, I root for the Cardinals, so we talk about them a little bit. We talk about some of the guys that are still available, that we are surprised that are still there. A lot of good Major League Baseball talk, smack dab in the middle of the football season. I know this podcast has been just straight football almost all season, but, that kind of football is king, man. It just takes over, especially during the fall. Nice to get something different, a little switch up. For us, Major League Baseball, the lockout is here. First work stoppage since 94-95. It's like the 8th or 9th lockout in Major League Baseball history. We will see what clown show Manfred does to resolve the situation. I got my money on not much. So awesome conversation coming up here in just a couple minutes with Alec and Hank. Before we do that, let's plug a few things, as we always like to do. So, brand new episode of my brand new podcast, Edging the Truth, is out now. Episode 3, we're talking aliens, folks. This is a conspiracy theory podcast. It's so fun. It's with my friends, One Lung, my friend Red Raspis, or Dave, and our friend Brian Shenanigan. 3 awesome dudes. We are just 3 friends from the internet talking conspiracy theories. So this week we're talking aliens. Your boy got to lead the episode. Very good one, if I do say so myself. Come for the UFOs. Stay for Brian talking about banging Chewbacca's. I'll let you guys figure that out. EdgingTheTruth.com or YouTube.com/EdgingTheTruth. Also, check out our college football show, a weekly college football show from the stands at From the Stands US on Twitter. YouTube.com/FromTheStandsSports. Awesome stuff with Brian and Tom every week. So, other than that, follow this show. Let's bump up this show a little bit, huh? The Brew Party. We are at The Brew Party on Twitter and Instagram. We're at The Brew Party Podcast on Facebook. Go ahead, like this video if you haven't already. Hit that subscribe button. Turn on those notifications so you know every time we go live, every time we post a new video. Share it with a friend who shares it with a friend who shares it with a friend. You know how that goes. So we are youtube.com/The Brew Party. We are wherever you get your podcast. If you prefer just to listen to my nonsense and not watch as well, excuse me, but find us on Apple, Spotify, Google. We're on Amazon Music. We're on Pandora. Literally wherever you get your podcasts. Just search The Brew Party or go to www.thebrewparty.com. www.thebrewparty.com. I thought I fucked that up. I'm sorry. I'm not a drug guy, though, but you can guess. Anyway, www.thebrewparty.com. It's got all of our social media links. It's got all of our episodes, links to listen to them. It's got links to the YouTube. You can just listen to the episode right on the website. If you want to support the show, which after this, I don't know why you would, and I wouldn't blame you for not wanting to, go to buymeacoffee.com/thebrewparty. You can donate $5. I will shotgun a beer for you. It helps support the show. Come on, it's the holidays. I got a kid, got one on the way. Somebody's got to put presents under the tree. Anyway, Brew Party Podcast, episode 89. There is no more point to this. We're talking MLB Lockout. Hank Indictor, Alec Walt, awesome conversation about an hour long. Stay tuned. Lockout, free agency, fuck Rob Manfred, Yankees, Red Sox, Cardinals, Rangers, a bunch of teams we get to. Just stay tuned. Awesome interview. Thank you so much to those guys for joining me. Before we get to the interview, let's get a word from BetUS Sportsbook. You guys know sports betting season is in full swing. I mean, come on. The NFL is here. College football is getting wrapped up. College basketball is back. The NBA, NHL, UFC, so many sports. They're all here. You need a sports book with integrity and longevity like BetUS. You may already know this, but BetUS have been pioneers in the sportsbook industry for almost 3 decades, thriving and paying out their loyal customer base. That is betus.com. And they have loads of bonuses. Join now or call 800-69-BET-US. That is 800-MY-BET-US. You receive 125% sign-up bonus using bonus code The Brew Party. Come on, don't throw this free money out. It's sign-up bonus, 125% with bonus code The Brew Party. They've got re-up, they've got referral bonuses. BetUS is known as America's favorite sportsbook for a lot of reasons. BetUS has all of your NBA, NHL, NFL, college football, UFC, PGA, live betting, futures, props. They've got a casino. They've got a race book, what have you. If you want to bet, it's on any bet you need, it's on betus.com. Check it out, betus.com. They've got every bet type imaginable, and the sharp BetUS mobile platform is easy with full betting options. So join me, get like I did, and go to betus.com. Use promo code The Brew Party for 125% sign-up bonus. BetUS. You bet, you win, you get paid. BetUS.com. Promo code The Brew Party. Use it. Help support the show and help win yourself some money. Come on, let's get these winners. We know college football season is almost done. Bowl season is here. We've got the NFL wrapping up. NBA, college basketball is back. No reason not to. Promo code The Brew Party, 125% sign-up bonus. BetUS.com. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. The Brew Party is here. We're back from our 2-week hiatus with a very special interview with 2 very special guests. This is episode 89 of the Brew Party podcast. I'm joined by 2 very fine gentlemen, 2 friends of the party. First, from Review and Preview Sports, Big Blue Avenue, hitting for the cycle. It is Hank Indictor, as well as from Down the Block Sports, the Alec Walt Show, MLB Network Radio. It's Alec Walt. Boys, you are here for not a great reason. I'm going to be honest with you. No, it is the MLB Lockout. So as of, I think, 11:59 Eastern on Wednesday night, the collective bargaining agreement between the owners and the MLB Players Association expired. entering Major League Baseball into its first work stoppage since 94, 95, and the first lockout since 1990. So I guess we're just going to jump right into it. Like, how the hell did we get here, guys?
Let me just start with this. I think we all saw this coming from a mile away. Like, if you looked at what was going on during the whole time off, like when COVID shut down baseball and they were trying to like negotiate how many games you were going to get into that season, like, and there was the whole thing regarding money and the back and forth thing with the players and owners. You just knew there was no way we were going to go into the end of that CBA without a lockout. Like, it was the safest bet in Vegas. And I hate when I'm right about certain things like that, but that was just one of those things where it was like so obvious, you know?
Yeah, I mean, you look at Major League Baseball, these teams are making billions of dollars. There's a lot of teams investing in, these bars, restaurants, stores, all surrounding, their stadiums, and players go to the field every day, noticing that all of this is happening because fans want to see us play on the baseball field. And, when you look at Major League Baseball, the treatment of minor league players, the process of becoming a professional is absolutely brutal. When you get to Major League Baseball, you're paid a pretty low scale. As you develop into a baseball player, you enter arbitration for 3 years. You're in it. So you're basically 28, 29, 30, sometimes older when you get paid. And a lot of teams are saying, I'm not giving you a long-term deal and an opportunity when you have the chance to make money. You're not getting those long-term deals because you're in your 30s and that much older. So, players are looking at this like, there's much more in it for us to get. I mean, being a baseball player right now is amazing. If you get to that 27, 28, 29 and sign that long-term contract, look at Corey Seeger right now. When you get to the top, it is argued like baseball might be the best professional sport to be in. But, the process of getting paid, when you get paid, how you get paid, and things like that. I mean, the structure in baseball is absolutely brutal. Players are putting their foot down and saying this needs to be fixed, or there's going to be some time we don't play baseball. Yes, that there's a two-way street and the players have almost too many demands. We will get to that in a little bit later, but there is a lot of issues going on with the process of how to make money in baseball, and the players want to make sure it's fixed before it gets any worse.
Right. So, I mean, I am all for the players standing up for themselves. I think I said it to Hank yesterday. It's why are you not, accommodating or, taking care of the guys that are making you your millions of dollars that literally are your revenue, are your team, what people are coming to see. So, Hank, you said we've seen this coming from a mile away. Why the hell is this happening, or why would they set this collective bargaining agreement to expire in the middle of a free agency period, which they knew it was going to be the middle of free agency period? Like, so we start the week seeing, Corey Seager getting this huge deal, Marcus Semien getting this huge deal, Javier Baez going, Scherzer, just name. We've seen deals all over the league, and now all of a sudden, no, lockout, you can't come in. All free agency ceases for the moment. You can't contact with the team. We see Major League Baseball players on Twitter all changing their profile pictures to the gray headshots that the MLB.com wiped the website clean of. Walt, you mentioned, what both sides are kind of asking for. I guess we should really get into that, like what the real problem is here as well. So first question, why the hell is this happening in the middle of free agency?
Well, I'd rather have it happen now than, get locked out before spring training.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm kind of happy they had this window too, because it gave teams the opportunity to speak to free agents. This gave teams an unofficial deadline to where, you can come to our team now. I mean, realistically, you almost thought you get more team-friendly deals with that deadline, almost making that decision and having your question already answered to where you're playing next year before you get there. But there was a lot of really player-friendly contract signed in that window, and it forced teams to spend money. Texas really wanted the 2-star middle infielders, signed both of them. The Mets really wanted Max Scherzer, secured him. So I actually kind of like it. I like the joke people make that we should have a lockout every year to force teams to spend money early, because when you look at Major League Baseball the last couple years, it's taken a while for the top guys to get paid. Now, yes, the winter meetings, the year Garrett Cole and Anthony Rendon were signed, is obviously an outlier season of what I'm talking about, but we've seen the Marcell Ozunas, the Josh Donaldsons, some of the other top, obviously near the top, but not the elite free agents take forever to get paid. And we saw a little bit of a change here this year, but I mean, obviously with it being December 1st, I'd rather have it now so I can get it out of the way and hopefully get it done by spring training. There's so many things they're negotiating on that makes me a little nervous to think spring training still realistic for right now. But from being able to spend money, having the non-tender deadline, and now having this window to determine a deadline, I'd almost rather have it right now than on any other time in the year.
Yeah, to piggyback on Walt's point, like every other sport, like the biggest example for me is the NBA. Whenever some big name becomes a free agent, you just know there are going to be at least 5 or 6 teams, maybe even more than that are going to try and pursue the services of him. Like, let's say Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, for example. Like the MLB, it's true. Like, and to add on another thing to Walt's point, like, remember a couple years ago, there was the whole talk, oh, are they going to go on strike because nobody's tried to sign Bryce Harper and Manny Machado yet? And yeah, that's definitely true. And I think I definitely tend to agree with that. I think one of the good things about all these free agent signings is that it gave the MLB, like, it made the MLB like a really popular topic for like the past month and a half. It was, where's he going to go? Where is so-and-so going to go? Well, now, of course, we're still wondering where Carlos Correa is going to go. And I would imagine there's going to be some team out there that's going to be dumb enough to give him like a 12 or 13 year contract because cheating.
There's no market for that right now, though.
He's one of the best. Wouldn't surprise me, though. I'm just saying.
But like, why would you give someone a 12 or 13 year deal when there's not 4 teams offering him that? I think Correa shot himself in the foot big time. Like, if I'm the New York Yankees and I'm negotiating with Correa, there's no way I'm even reaching those numbers.
Oh, well, I should hope not.
Because you like, there's no other. Do you think there's another competitive offer on the table to give him that?
That's a good point.
You need a bid for him. Detroit's not there anymore. The Rangers are not there anymore. Yes, he'd want to match Corey Seager, but there needs to be teams to offer him that contract.
Right.
I think outside of Freddie Freeman's going to get his money, and I'm shocked that he hasn't gotten paid yet. I know we're getting a little bit off topic here, but I think Correa is in a pretty tough spot. He can get paid, but I just don't see the 12, 13, 350-ish numbers coming to him this offseason.
Yeah, I don't know if I see it either. I do see him making big money, but again, somebody's going to be dumb enough to pay him overpay him.
Yeah.
But back to the lockout, let's talk about, each side's kind of demands and what the players are really asking for here. I know they want a year earlier of arbitration. They want more money earlier in their careers. What else was it?
They want to have an age cap on free agency. It's like getting to 29 and a half. I know the owners obviously aren't going to want to do that. So like, Mike Yastrzemski type of guy who gets called to the majors when he's late in his career. He has to fill the 6 years of service time. Then when he's 33, 34, or some of the free guys in that situation, it destroys their chances of getting a long-term deal because they become a free agent so late in their career. I know there's arguments over the luxury tax line, how many years it becomes for arbitration, like you guys mentioned. I'm now hearing things about a potential MLB draft lottery to prevent teams from tanking.
I saw that too.
To have more rebuilding team spending, so you don't have a Baltimore Orioles situation where they're spending like $26 million on a roster isn't going to be competitive, and anyone that is of relevance outside of Adley Rutschman is pretty much for sale. I don't know how they're ever going to fix the Baltimore Orioles and what they're trying to do, but obviously having less teams tank and convincing more teams to spend money, not tanking for the number 1 pick in the draft. Now, obviously the draft in Major League Baseball is different than NBA, because not like you're getting a LeBron or a Zion with the number 1 pick who's going to make an impact right away and completely flip your franchise. There are franchise players in this draft, but normally you don't see them for 3, 4, sometimes 5 years after they get drafted, depending on if you draft them out of college or out of high school. Expanded playoffs, universal DH, revenue sharing, service time manipulation, salary cap, like what they're trying to negotiate on, it's insane how many different things they have to figure out. It's like the players want a higher salary cap. The owners raised it but had more penalties, and obviously if there's harsh penalties, you're not going to want to go above the luxury tax line, and which doesn't obviously force teams to want to spend money. It's an I mean, I'm going all over the place right now, but what's on the table between Manfred and Clark, who I don't trust at all at the negotiating table, is absolutely insane.
Hank, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree. There's like so many things. There's really so many ways to like go about this whole thing. I don't know. It's all real mind blowing. You know, I feel like you got the players wanting to be paid more, and I'm totally for the players on their side, because I think a big reason why the players want this, like you get called up. Some of them are probably going to have families or something. They want to like be taken care of like for a long time to come. So I totally am on the players' side with this whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think the beginning salary in Major League Baseball is $570,000 or something like that per season for the first couple of years before you can negotiate your salary based on the arbitration level. I mean, it's I think it's by far the lowest, I think, in every other sport. I think the minimum in the NBA is like a little over $2 million. They have by far the highest amongst any sport. I think in the NFL, it's about $700,000 or so. There's some scales there. They have to try and increase that number. But yeah, a league where you get paid till you're like 28, 29, 30 is absolutely ridiculous. And I mean, yes, I would love to make over $500,000 a season. And, you know, hearing athletes argue over this amount of money can get, you know, bother some people. But for how much teams are making and what teams are doing outside of their ballparks to like improve the fan experience is I think it's absolutely necessary for this to happen. I mean, I'm trying to think in any other sport, what's your entry level in hockey? Like 3 years?
Yeah, 3 to 4 basically.
In the NFL, it's 4. For the later picks, there's options.
Mm-hmm.
And in Major League Baseball, it's 6. And sometimes your best years as a player are in those seasons.
Yep.
As you try and prove to earn your next contract. So have fun.
Have fun.
Yeah.
Well, Manfred has came out and said that the owners voted to do this because it was necessary to make sure that they get an agreement going. Apparently, the MLBPA has been, you know, offering proposals and stuff like this since May, and Clark has said he never felt any urgency from Major League Baseball or Manfred to get a deal done. Manfred came out and said we didn't consider it a proposal. So it just feels like it's been a long time now where these two sides haven't been on the same page. And I think Hank mentioned it earlier. This goes back to COVID, you know, the last season, the shortened year where they couldn't agree on anything. You know, I do think what the players are asking for is very valid. There is so much manipulation on the control over these guys' contracts, keeping them, you know, down in the majors for an extra, week or something like that, gives them a whole another year of control over these people's contracts. It just doesn't seem right. And I'm glad the players are finally trying to do something about this. So obviously it's only been, you know, a couple days. Realistically, how long do you guys think we're going to still be talking about this? How long is this lockout going to last?
I would imagine at the very least, we're probably still going to be talking to this maybe during the early parts of March, because I think, like I said, the way it all went down about a year and a half ago, those talks were just completely ugly. So I think that's why I feel like it was really a bad omen. But the glass half full part of me feels like that's probably they'll probably end it then, because maybe the owners will realize the longer this shit goes on, then we're going to keep losing money from this, and the sport's going to probably be affected in one of the worst way possible. So that's why there's like a part of me that's holding out hope that maybe we'll still get like a normal season, but because of how ugly 2020 was, that's why I can't be like 100% like, all optimistic that we're going to get like a full season. I think they're going to get a season. I just think it's probably going to get delayed at the very like worst, in my honest opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we went into March still not having an agreement between these two sides. I mean, Manfred and Clark don't have the greatest history. I mean, they have spoken a little these last couple days, but it's nothing really too crazy. I mean, I think there should be energy on both sides to get a deal done early. Obviously, when there was the COVID, disagreements, owners wanted less game played due to fans not being able to attend games. Players wanted more games played to earn more money. The players put their foot down and, kept their arms crossed and waited too long due to having very little communication, and basically settled for a 60-game season because, let's be real, if John Henry doesn't have a season, he still owns the Pittsburgh Penguins and Liverpool. I mean, these owners are still they're still billionaires. I mean, yes, it sucks that they wouldn't have this, but at the end of the day, when they waited too long, they almost were forced to take the season they were given. They got expanded playoffs. Owners got a TV deal out of it, and then they were able to have fans attend games when they ended up going to Texas and having those series after into the World Series to, go in that direction. So I am not confident in these two sides coming to an agreement anytime soon. I think just overall image of Major League Baseball will continue to get torn because all offseason it's going to be very negative, as other sports are still going on. Like, people are looking at baseball as nothing right now. They have college basketball, college football, NFL, NBA, NHL, all happening right now. And, when we get into March, people are going to not care about baseball as they continue to bicker. There's a lot of stuff that's going on right now in sports, and it's unfortunate that all baseball needs to be negative right now. But, if you want fans going back to games, and that stuff's still going to happen. But, lockouts lead to fans upset. They want to see teams continuing to spend money and having the weekends like they did just last weekend with all the money that was spent in Major League Baseball. So, for the players to get their full season and to not settle, I think they should agree to something soon. And for the owners, making sure they get their full money and continue their projects. I mean, why the hell not? But at the end of the day, look at the two hitting the table. It wasn't pretty last time, and there's nothing telling me that anything's going to change.
Yep. I think he pretty much nailed it on the head.
So Manfred, he posted a letter to MLB.com, pretty much when the lockout started, talking about outlining, what Major League Baseball sent back, what they finally proposed to the MLBPA after, months of just not saying anything. Said, and I quote, this is an article from the Washington Post, we offered to establish a minimum payroll for all clubs to meet for the first time in baseball history to allow the majority of players to reach free agency earlier through an age-based system that would eliminate any claims of service time manipulation, and to increase compensation for all young players, including increases in the minimum salary, the letter read. When negotiations lacked momentum, we tried to create some by offering to accept the universal designated hitter, to create a new draft system using a lottery similar to other leagues, and to increase the competitive balance tax threshold that affects only a small number of teams. So in other words, Manfred and MLB officials were daring the public to say they didn't try, which is exactly what the union, which is exactly what the MLBPA said later. So, guys, I guess my next question here is, who is going to, bend on this first? Who is going to break their back on this first? Who is going to, is it going to be the MLBPA taking less than what they asked for? Is it going to be the MLB giving more than what they wanted to?
I mean, I feel like the player asks are more. Like some of obviously you want to have less years to arbitration, paid early, draft. I mean, if I'm the players, so I'm putting my foot down because that last deal didn't help them very much. Like that COVID year was disastrous for the players. They got pretty much nothing what they wanted because they pretty much settled. I mean, it's tough to say that because you talk about universal DH. I think that helps both the players and the owners because now, more batters get paid, pitchers don't have to hit, and fans get to see the best hitters and the best pitchers face each other on a nightly basis. You talk about a floor, that helps some of Baltimore is going to have to pay someone. You can't get away with just having, a $20 million roster and getting away with it and flipping anyone that has any value. So, as of right now, I have no idea how to answer that because neither side has come to any agreement on any of the topics. They're not even close. You look at the salary cap line, one's 214, the other's 245. You talk about arbitration, one's 2, the other's 3. One wants one wants an age cap, the other doesn't. One wants to manipulate service time. Well, actually, in this agreement, they just got rid of something like that, which is actually impressive because I do think that's important. Teams should want to play the best 25 men in their organization. Mm-hmm. And if one is 22 years old and you can hold him back so you don't have to pay him till he's 29, from a business standpoint, I get it. But from a fan standpoint, from a team standpoint, you should want to have those guys on the field. So I need to see a little bit more traction from the player side. I feel like they're a little bit further than I want them to be. I obviously want them to get as much money as possible, but it almost seems like they have more that they're asking than they can give here in this negotiation.
Yeah, it's really tough to tell. I'm totally in the support of the players because, like Walt alluded to, a lot so far, it really is ridiculous that the MLB is the only league that, you have not 6 or 7 years and then you get paid. Whereas you look at the NHL, there's a young elite defenseman who's played only 3 years. I'm talking about Adam Fox. He gets a 7-year contract and now he's pretty much all set. He hasn't even hit his prime yet. You don't see stuff like that in the MLB. So it's, I don't know. The two sides just seem so far apart. I'd like to think maybe it's the owners and the MLB itself that somehow caves, but I don't know, man. I feel like this whole thing, I'm really worried that it's going to get all drawn out. No sooner than March is what I would imagine.
Yeah. I'm still kind of looking over this article, and Manfred and Clark, yeah, they really don't fucking like each other, and I love it. Clark said it would have been beneficial to the process to have spent as much time negotiating in the room as it appears was spent on the letter. Obviously, the letter that I read a couple excerpts from. Then Manfred, of course, in his press conference, just pretty much just ripped into the proposal from the MLBPA. Talking about, the proposal to shorten the major league debut to free agency time from 6 years to 5. He said it would hurt the game. It would hurt the small market teams and fans that are already struggling to compete. It's just a lot of he said, she said. I think I know the answer to this, guys, but before we wrap this part up and talk a little free agency to kind of close out the show, which side, if you can really put it on either side, is more to blame for this work stoppage? What, the 9th lockout in MLB history?
Something like that.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know the actual number.
Because I know I know there was strikes in 1972 and 81 and then 94, and then there was a lockout in 1990 that shortened spring training. I'm not sure if it's 8 or 9.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's somewhere around there. Besides the point, who is more to blame here? Do you put this more on Manfred, the owners, and the MLB? Do you put this more on the MLBPA? Is it a mixture of both?
Well, it has to be a mixture of both. I mean, like I
Yeah.
mentioned before, I said players are putting their foot down. I mean, that means the players have something to contribute to there being a lockout. I've also said that owners and teams have manipulated service time and, they've increased their profits while the profits of some of the players while they're in their younger ages and when they eventually get paid, remain the same or a little bit lower. Yes, the stars in baseball are getting paid. And yes, the upper class of baseball are in an amazing position compared to other athletes in other sports. But for the guys that aren't in that position, it's really not that way. And I think a lot of it has to do with teams and, other organizations like that manipulating how they can use players. So Chris Bryant, could you imagine if he got paid a year earlier? Now he's in free agency, There's other situations like that all around Major League Baseball. Jared Kelenic was a major example recently. So I think it is both sides. I mean, sooner or later, the players have to do something about wanting change, and they're doing it. Sooner or later, teams have to realize that the way their system is set up is more one-sided than the other. At the end of the day, fans are going to the ballpark to see the people on the field, not watch the guys in the upstairs. So, the way I look at it is it's definitely strongly on both sides, but at the end of the day, something had to be done. But my concern is yes, I agree something had to be done, but I don't agree with who is in the process of getting it done.
Mm-hmm.
That's my concern. Because I'm cool, increasing your beginner level salary, believe in it. Better treatment for players in the minors, I believe in it. These are the faces of your organization who are struggling to survive, and they need to live the lifestyle of being a professional athlete. That's not just a 9-to-5 job, but they have to add other jobs to their life to keep up with things. Mm-hmm. You look at teams that are, saying no to one of the better players in their organization. They're keeping up some veteran outfielder just so they can avoid paying a dude and taking a year of service time. I think I disagree with that. I think the best 25 men in your organization should be in the dugout or in the bullpen for your team on a given night. So there's a lot going both ways, and obviously teams are going to want to use things like our players and teams are going to want to use things like service time and universal DH and arbitration as leverage points to kind of get to where they want to go. But this is very much a two-way street, and it's very obvious that these two sides do not like each other, and they are making it very well known across all sports. It's pretty bad.
Yeah, I would say there's no question that it's on both sides for sure. Because, while to Walt's point, I think while you can agree that the MLB owners are being all greedy and whatnot, at the same time, the players are the ones that wanted to put their foot down, take a stand. And you know what? I completely am in full support, and I have no problem whatsoever with them doing that. I think, if you're a professional athlete, you're a major league player, it's important that, your owners take care of you at an early point. So that way they can get paid well while still being in their prime. And, at the end of the day, what am I trying to say? At the end of the day, I think another point that Walt made was Tony Clark really is the worst person to be putting up a fight against Rob Manfred. I've looked at some of the battles in the past, it's neither side is really neither of the main guys on both sides are very trustworthy. Andy, you and I both know damn well that Rod Manfred is somebody that is an absolute snake, but Tony Clark isn't necessarily any better.
No.
Yeah, during the COVID negotiation, when he got it to 60 games and, expanded playoffs, I'm I said Tony Clark is the only guy that can possibly keep Manfred his job.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate, actually.
I was great. Oh man, it's going to be a wild winter.
We're down bad right now. So the winter meetings have been canceled. There is no sign of light, really. No light at the end of the tunnel currently. I know shouldn't get too discouraged because, it just started. Obviously, you would like it never to happen, but if it is going to happen, Alec, you did bring up a good point. It might as well be in the middle of the offseason in December when they have, some months to figure this out. So that was our lockout, letting everybody know what the hell is going on, getting educated there by Alec and Hank. So let's talk about free agency real quick. We'll talk, some of the deals that already happened and maybe some guys that are still out there being affected by this lockout and where you guys think they could find themselves, when this all gets settled. So let's go to the big ones. We mentioned it earlier. Corey Seeger and Marcus Semien. Let's throw them in one to the Texas Rangers. The Rangers have been, I'll say it, a dumpster fire the past few seasons. They haven't been playing very good baseball recently. And they seem to be going for it here. I was quite surprised when I saw these two guys heading down to Texas. What did you guys think of these moves? I mean, for Texas, for Seeger, and for Semien as well.
For the players, it's great. $25 million a year for Semien for the next 7 years. I mean, 32.5 for Seeger over the next 10. You look at the middle infield in baseball, it's an extremely important position defensively. They're two of the best bats at the position in Major League Baseball. Obviously, health is the only concern here with Corey Seager as someone who struggled to stay in the lineup for a full season in his career. But, these are two of the best middle infielders in Major League Baseball. They're both on their way to Texas. Texas is a team that really doesn't have very much. They traded Joey Gallo last year to the Yankees. I mean, their pitching staff is extremely young with some prospects who are definitely on the way over the next couple of years. The timing's interesting because normally teams spend this money when they have a core in place at the Major League level, kind of like the Detroit Tigers, what they did with Javier Baez, but the Rangers still have some prospects on the way who are not in Texas yet. So this is definitely a deal to help in the development process of those guys. But, sooner or later, we'll see guys like Jack Leiter up at the Major League level. It's going to make his life a hell of a lot easier having that duo up the middle. So, hey, I still think Texas is probably still the third or fourth best team in that division. I still don't think they're at Astro or Mariner level yet. Angels will see it to believe it when I see their pitching, but I'll give Manassian a lot of credit for finding some pitchers here. Oakland, I think they're in full sell mode. I think when this lockout is over with, we're going to see Chapman and Olsen and Minaya and Bassett and Montas and pretty much everyone else potentially on the trade block as they look to rebuild their future without Bob Melvin. But, good for Seeger and good for Semien, but it's still going to be a little bit for the Rangers to become a competitive team in that division with the Astros and the Mariners looking like they're still going to be amongst the top two teams in that division.
Yeah, I think I would agree. It does feel weird that they're going for it because they have a lot of stars on their, young players that aren't really quite ready. So I feel like this was partially about trying to field a better team within the next 2 or 3 years, but I think it's also about trying to get the fans to come to the ballpark when the lockout's ready. Because let's face it, names draw fans to the ballpark, and I think that's what you're getting with Seeger and Semien. So it definitely will be interesting to see if it works out. I think they should definitely get a few solid years out of them. The problem I have with sending a lot of that money to Semien is you look at the numbers that Semien had this past year. 265 batting average, 40 home runs, over 100 RBIs. Definitely, I think he very well may have peaked this year. I don't think you're going to get a replica of that season again. That's about as good as you'll see from Semien, and the Blue Jays definitely got that. And as far as Corey Seager goes, while I do think he was one of the best shortstops available, I'm not paying that guy 10 years, $365 million. Are you kidding me? Here's the thing. He's a great player. Don't get me wrong, but do you know how many years he's played over 100 games in a season in his 7-year career? 3. That's a major red flag in my eyes. I mean, look, great lefty bat, good fielder, I get it, but this guy's in his late 20s. He's what, either late 20s, early 30s? That's going to be
27.
Yeah, that's going to be very, very ugly down the road. So I think it's more of a short-term solution maybe for 2 to 3 years than anything else. And even then, there's no way I can put Texas ahead of Seattle and Houston. Even if Houston loses Carlos Correa, they're still going to be they're still one of the better teams in that division, without a doubt. And I like what Seattle did with adding Robbie Ray. I don't know if it'll be enough to lift them over Houston, but at the very least, they're making the push. So I would imagine the third and fourth spot in the AL West comes down to Texas or Anaheim. Anaheim, I think maybe I'll give Perry Minasian the benefit of the doubt, but then again, I still don't like the idea of giving a pitcher who you haven't even seen at his best in over 2.5 years a 1-year, $20 million contract. I'm still not entirely sold on that. And Oakland, the less said about them, the better. We know that team's in sell mode. So yeah, I'm intrigued by what Texas did essentially.
Absolutely. You have to be, it's a little eyebrow raiser.
Yeah.
For sure. So the next guy I want to talk about, it's Max Scherzer. He's going to New York. He's going to the New York Mets. I have to read this text from Tom Scavetta because he is a good buddy. I texted our group. I said, how about Scherzer to the Mets, Tom? Paid a 37-year-old $43 million a year. Should I throw a party? So noted Mets fan Tom Scavetta, not a huge fan of the deal, but it is very notable. They did pay a 37-year-old pitcher. They gave him $100 million. What do you guys make of this deal? Stevie Cohen, soft, first of all, with the whole Steven Matz thing. That was a joke, but we're not talking about that. He is nutting up. He is spending some money. Not only bringing in Scherzer, he brought in Starling Marte, Eduardo Escobar, Mark Canha as well. We'll start with Scherzer. What do you think about Scherzer being 37 and about to be making $43 million a year?
Well, first of all, if there's any 37-year-old pitcher you're okay with giving that contract to, it's Max Scherzer, because other than maybe Clayton Kershaw, and even then I might still put him ahead of Clayton Kershaw, like, what pitcher do you want, generally speaking, pitching for you in a big game situation? Like, it's got to be Scherzer. Like, how many other pitchers have you seen that have matched his intensity? Like, not wanting to, like, get congratulations from teammates, doing all these crazy things before and after the games. Like, I think Met fans should feel good about getting Max Scherzer. However, with that being said, I don't think Tom is completely off base with his complaint about getting Max Scherzer, because at the end of the day, the guy is still 37 years old. You look what happened at the end of the season last year with the Dodgers, and don't get me wrong, if you look at his numbers in the second half of the season, he was absolutely fantastic. 7-0, 1.98 ERA, and remember, all those games were in the stretch drive, and quite frankly, without Scherzer, I don't know if the Dodgers even get as far as the NLCS with the way that they were banged up all season. So I think he's definitely a great pitcher to have, especially if you can have him and Jake being healthy at 1-2 in the rotation. The problem is with the Mets, I'm still not 100% sure that team is in full position to really go out, spend money, and win now. And the reason I say this is because, as good as they look on paper, they don't have a prospect pool where they can, like, trade a guy and try to put in a Band-Aid if shit hits the fan. You know what I'm saying? Like, if any one of those guys in their starting rotation gets injured, they're in big trouble. I'm going to straight up say it right now. And if the Braves find a way to re-sign Freddie Freeman, which they will, because there's no question in my mind he's staying with that team. He loves Atlanta. Like, I think the Dodgers all the rumors are probably, like, trying to put the leverage moves or something, or like gossip. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I think the Braves are still going to be an absolute challenge to the Nets, even with, like, a fully healthy team. So I don't know. I like what they're trying to do and, like, try to get better. And I respect Steve Cohen for having the nerves to, like, make that move. I just don't know if that's necessarily a franchise that really is in the best position to go all in. And I'm sure if you ask Tom, he probably could vouch for me on that too.
And when you look at the New York Mets right now, they're currently a team without a manager. And if you're Steve Cohen and you dealt with the nonsense you had to deal with in the search of getting a general manager, now that you have a general manager, you need to do whatever you can to improve the job to market a manager. I think one thing Steve Cohen did here that's not getting talked about enough is he marketed his team better for any potential managerial candidate. I've heard the names like Joe Espada get mentioned, who I believe is with the Houston Astros. I've heard some more veteran coaches, veteran manager names to potentially convince someone to come out of retirement, which normally leads to the same end result and them not wanting to come out of retirement. So, I'm just throwing the names out there that are being mentioned here, but when I look at this job right now, Steve Cohen needs to own up to his word. He came to New York and said he was going to try and build a contender. He said he was going to spend some money. Well, he spent a bunch of money on one of the better pitchers in baseball to try and build a contender that's still going to be made or broken based on the health of Jacob deGrom. So, when he goes into meetings with potential managers, he can say he has two aces. He can say he has an improved defense and base running with the addition of Marte. He has two very solid veterans in the clubhouses who can play multiple positions in an Escobar and a Canna. They do have some trade candidates, and I do think what they do with those specific infield positions could be very interesting. I also think things can get very interesting if there's no DH, because right now they're kind of banking on that Dom Smith, Pete Alonso duo playing first base and DH throughout most of the regular season next year. But I think for the Mets, on paper, they're contenders. They had to do something in free agency. You talk about their prospect pool. After trading Javier Baez last year, it's really not that deep. They were not in position to make trades. They were in position to make signings. These signings didn't cost them any prospects to get them in return. So, for the New York Mets, they had to do something to improve the manager job. They had to do something to bring free agents to New York, and they had to fill the certain holes through the free agency, and they did that before the lockout. So we'll see how it works out. The Mets are a team in the past who have made these big moves before, and they simply haven't worked out. But on paper, if everyone can stay healthy, which is still a huge concern, it seems like they have pretty much all the pieces except for a few bullpen and depth pitchers to be a legitimate team this year. So for any manager, it looks much nicer in New York than it did just a couple weeks ago.
Oh, yeah, no, definitely. I think it makes sense for Steve Cohen to want to go all out. But again, as I said, I don't always know if money necessarily solves every single problem,
It doesn't. If they get hurt, they're screwed. They have no ability to fix from within.
Yeah, exactly.
Unless they decide to sign a bunch of minor league free agents and get 7 Josh Harrisons to play in your AAA next year, and then just randomly call them up throughout the season and go with some random veteran by committee, which I don't think works. I think to build a solid organization in baseball, you need the core of players you drafted and developed, which, God, I mean, deGrom is. They have a few, but it's not really I'm not in on the Mets. They got the Braves to beat. Yeah. I think they're better than the Phillies. I don't believe in the Phillies. I think the Phillies are a joke.
No,
but they have the chance to be a top 2 team in this division next year.
Yeah, absolutely. So I just got a couple more questions for you. I'm going to ask each of you who do you think made the best signing? What team do you think made the best move? And what team do you question their thinking in bringing a certain guy on? I know that's kind of a broad question here, but are there any moves that you guys really, really liked? Any moves that you guys really hated, didn't understand?
Can I start here?
Of course.
Go for it.
Why did the Tigers give Baez 140? No, I don't hate the signing. But why would you do it with Correa still on the market? Anything?
I think
no, absolutely not.
Who's going to bid for Correa right now?
I mean,
they could have easily waited it out and got him for a very good deal. Now, there's still, stories still on the market. There's still some other free agents out there for teams that need a shortstop. And Baez will be great in Detroit. Detroit needs players who've won World Series before, players who've played in competitive games late in the season, someone with an attitude, someone who can be an impact bat in their lineup. And Baez checks off all those boxes as long as you're winning. He's not someone you want to have around. If you're losing, ask Met fans what happened when he dealt with any slight player criticism, which led to him pretty much being no longer a New York Met right now. But I question if Carlos Correa will get the deal he thinks he's going to get. And if you're Detroit and that's really, I think, the best fit for your team, they jumped the gun signing Baez, which isn't a bad deal, but I think they could have manipulated a way to get Correa on a cheaper deal than what he wanted, and I think that would have been the better move for their team.
I love it. Absolutely. Hank, what you got?
I think that's absolutely a completely fair statement to make. I think Javi Baez, he's a talented shortstop. I agree, but I don't know if he necessarily was the best. But if you put him,
he was the fifth of 5.
Yeah, no,
still elite, but the worst of the top 3. I mean, I would have rather had Story. I mean, give Story what's his name's deal. Match Simeon's deal for Story. Who would you rather have?
Oh my gosh, Story.
I think Trevor Story. Yeah, I think that's the play.
No,
okay, match Correa's deal with Seeger's. Out of all the deals, what would you rather have? I'd still rather have Story.
Yeah. But with that being said, to continue my point for like the signing that makes sense, I think Walt definitely brings up a good point. I don't know if Baez would have been my first choice, but is he the worst thing in the world for the Tigers? Absolutely not. I think they definitely improved their team during the free agency period by getting 2 players who've had World Series experience and have rings and could definitely provide leadership. But with that being said, I would probably go with Corey Seager, because I mean, you got Marcus Semien for like what, 7 years, $131 million. And then you're going to go out and add like another shortstop. And now you're like paying 10 years. I mean, look, in theory, it makes sense. You want to sell your team. You want to get fans to come to your ballpark after all that losing. But was it really necessary to get like 2 shortstops and commit more to your payroll now than you have in the last 2 seasons? I'm not 100% sure if that's the case. And as I said with Seeger, as talented as he is, while he's probably one of the 2 best shortstops that were on the free agency market, my big problem with him is, if you know there's a good chance you're not going to get 100 games in a season out of him, that's a major red flag.
Agreed.
I don't love the Seager deal.
Yeah, no.
It's a lot of money.
It's going to help them for sure, but it's way too risky for my liking.
What I want to know is why the Red Sox didn't get Marcus Stroman. 3 years and $71 million is an outstanding deal for the Cubs, who I didn't think at all were going to be interested in Stroman.
I mean, yeah, you look at their moves. They go with Yan Gomes, which doesn't make sense. I don't know why they pick up Gomes when they have Contreras, and you get Clint Frazier to, an extra guy for that outfield. Did not see them spending money this offseason. I mean, good for them for getting Stroman. I know he's super excited to join the Cubs, but 3 years, $71 million, that's not bad for a guy. I don't think Stroman's in the prime of his career anymore.
I don't either,
but it's still a pretty damn good option in your rotation. Who is one guy, I'm going to say, besides Carlos Correa, because we have mentioned him a bunch, that you are surprised has not been signed yet? I know we can put a little bit of an asterisk on it with the free agency essentially ceasing at the moment, but who was one guy you guys were expecting to be on a roster, or at least have an agreement at this point?
You want to take the easy one, or do you want me to? I'm gonna let you do this first.
Freddie.
Yeah. Yeah.
What is Atlanta waiting for?
Freddie.
Are they waiting for the Dodgers to give him 6 and 200 to sign him? Like, what is the problem here?
Yeah, I don't get it either.
6 and 180 sounds like a steal. His swing is not going anywhere. He's a first baseman. He's not playing a center field or a shortstop where when he hits his 30s, after he gets to 36, you have to change his position or he's a complete different player. Freddie Freeman's not going anywhere for the next 6 years. Give him $30 million. You have the 2 best contracts in baseball on your roster already with Acuna and Albies.
Yeah.
Give him the money he deserves. Put him at first base and contend for more World Series titles. Let's go, Alex Anthopoulos.
No.
Anthopoulos is one of the best GMs in baseball. He killed it putting the roster together to contend for a World Series. And I get the argument how teams who spend on emotion, which I think this is not even in that situation. Sometimes when you see players win late in the season, they get a contract bigger than they actually deserve. I don't think $30 million a year is bigger than what Freddie Freeman deserves. Like, yes, okay, Steven Strasburg killed it. Anthony Rendon killed it for the Nationals.
Mm-hmm.
The Nationals had to choose one. They let Rendon go, and Rendon has not lived up to the expectations since he signed that deal with the LA Angels. Heck, neither has Strasburg, who's been hurt every single year since signing that deal. We've seen players sign these deals all the time, but there is no way I could put Freddie Freeman in that class.
Yeah.
Because do the Nationals regret paying Strasburg right now? Probably. But you paid someone with a history attached to him. Freddie Freeman doesn't have that. His swing is consistently awesome. His defense is consistently awesome. His presence is consistently positive. The dude got COVID, couldn't do anything, came back with no warm-up, and nearly won the MVP last year. 2020, not 2021. The
I know
dude comes out slow. The Braves deal with the most talented player on their team getting injured for the season. They make up a roster, adding 4 new players at the deadline, deal with pitching injuries all season, and win the World Series.
Yeah, if I'm Atlanta, they should have just taken care of him already. If they don't
pay him and he goes to a different team, sorry to interrupt you, he's going to the Yankees.
Oh, listen, I would love that, but at the same time, he doesn't look right. As much as I would love to have Freddie Freeman on my team, it wouldn't look right to see him not in a Braves uniform.
No, I agree, but who's going to pay him $6 and $180 that needs a first baseman and has the money to spend on it?
Us, obviously. I mean,
yeah. Sign the
as much
contract.
as I love Anthony Rizzo, I would. If you asked me who I would take between those two, I'm obviously taking Freddie Freeman. But with that,
I know that's the scary thing.
I don't think he's going to want to sign to the Yankees. I think I think he obviously loves being in Atlanta. Braves could have taken care of this, but I'm really not that worried. I think eventually Anthopoulos will do the right thing, and I think he, even if it means he'll take less money, maybe just a little bit less money, there's no doubt in my mind Freeman's staying with the Braves. But as far as guys that I would imagine should have been signed, I'm gonna put Trevor Story in there. He's another underrated shortstop who's consistently put up some decent numbers over the course of the year, and you just know somebody with a shortstop problem really will need him once this lockout ends. And I would have to, he's my instinct. Otherwise, I would definitely say Carlos Correa.
What?
Cardinals.
Yeah, I mean, I would love for us to fucking pull the trigger and sign somebody besides Steven Matz. So I'm glad we brought in Matz. I'm glad we're getting a fucking pitcher that's hopefully won't get hurt like in his first or second start of the year and just not be able to play. But absolutely would love Trevor Story in St. Louis. I know him and Arenado are really good friends. Make it happen.
That'd be hilarious if those two teamed up.
It would be really funny. It would be really funny, and we need it. We need a consistent middle infielder. We need a shortstop that, you're actually afraid of at the plate. We do have, we've got middle infielders on the roster that can, defend really well, but they can't fucking hit the ball. We need Trevor Story. Thank you, Alec Walt, for that. I appreciate that. So I'm obviously a Cardinals fan. If you haven't figured this out yet, Walt is a Patriots, but Boston Red Sox fan. Hank is our Yankees fan. So before we get out of here, each of you guys are going to tell me what about your teams and what they have done so far, what they need to do, what they have done. I guess the moves they've made or lack of moves they've made. So Hank, I'll start with you. What have you liked / disliked about the Yankees offseason so far?
I don't know if there's really much of anything that I did like of this Yankees offseason. Like this is let me do my good Hal Steinbrenner Brian Cash impersonation for you guys. Like, my issue isn't that the Yankees didn't get Corey Seager. Like, look, I told you why I think Corey Seager is a ginormous risk for the Texas Rangers. And even though theoretically having his bat in the lineup would make sense because you have a lefty shortstop, and theoretically I should be wanting him with the Yankees. I understand it's a red flag. My issue isn't that they didn't get the big names. My issue is the fact that they didn't even make an effort to get them. Like, I'm sorry, you've got one of the bigger payrolls in the league. Like, how? What are you doing? Like, I mean, Cashman gets some of the blame too, obviously, because I mean, you've seen, I've criticized him a number of times on this, on not just my show, but on this show too. Like, he's another guy that just, like, you know, he doesn't want to like take the big enough risks that can like help put the Yankees over the top. It's just like, it's really disheartening. I think that as much as the strike itself has really been what's just disheartening me and like letting me like down over this offseason. But you know what? Am I surprised? No, because let's put it this way. Hal doesn't have the same mindset as his father did. Hal's more along the lines of making, you know, the cold hard cash, and like, because he knows the Yankees are a brand name where the fans will always show up to the games. He just,
Same thing as the Cardinals. They
Yep.
know they know people will still show up.
that's why every time we do like a collaboration together, I realized, holy shit, our teams like literally have some of the same complaints.
We feel each other's pain. I just root for a small market team. Mine's a
big market team that acts like a small market team these days. I feel like the Yankee evil empire.
This is.
Yeah, mine is for sure.
Mine just acts like a fucking small market.
My buddy Greg has a great joke. It's like every MLB owner will tell you that they're a small market team.
He's not wrong. Like, oh my gosh, it's ridiculous. And you know what Cashman's gonna do. When this is all over, he's gonna end up thinking, oh well, I didn't get Carlos Correa, didn't get the best guy. I guess I'll just settle for Andrelton Simmons and Anthony Rizzo. Oh, no big deal. It's gonna be another one of those years where they're like, they'll have a team that's just enough, but yet here's the problem. Just enough is not fucking enough. Like, George is rolling in his grave. Like, and look, I'm not saying George was the perfect owner. George did things that were like really like that were bad. I'm not saying George was perfect by any stretch. Like, in fact, if he didn't get suspended in the early 90s, I don't know if that dynasty even happens. But the one thing you could never accuse George of was not caring.
For sure. Sure. All right, Alec, you have the floor.
For an owner.
Well, you have the floor. Tell us about the Boston Red Sox.
So the Red Sox haven't been too exciting this offseason so far. I mean, we're talking about the Red Sox and the Yankees, and when there's been a ton of moves, those two teams haven't done too many. But, you know, the Red Sox need to add pitching depth. They made a couple signings in that department, signing James Paxton, Michael Wacha, and Rich Hill. Paxton, of course, has suffered Tommy John last year and will not be ready. What's looking like for the 2021 season or 2022 season, of course, if it's a lockout, he might actually be ready. So we don't know how that's going to pan itself out. Michael Walko is your classic 3-inning, one-time through the order type of relief pitcher. Going to likely stick in the bullpen. Did have a better end to the season last year, but he's very well known in the American League East. Does understand the grind of the AL East, but teams that are going to be facing him do understand what he offers next year for the Boston Red Sox. Same with Rich Hill, who was in the AL East, then the NL East. So it's another veteran who's going to give you about 4 innings. Paxton, you know, it's almost taking the risk when he returns from injuries. So overall, with their pitching additions, I'm not very impressed. I think they needed to add reliable innings eaters, and right now they haven't. They added in their rotation. I mean, Eovaldi's been healthy lately, but before he came to Boston, he had an injury history. Chris Sale has not looked like Chris Sale these last 2 seasons. Paxton's still recovering from an injury, so there still are some questions in the rotation. I think Houck and Pivetta are going to be massive next year for the Boston Red Sox, but from a pitching standpoint, they've pretty much gone with guys who can fill innings through a, you know, one-time through the order basis. And pretty much said on bullpen games, we're going to go 3 innings with Wacha, 3 innings with Hill, and find some relievers who are, you know, healthy that day to finish the baseball game. I mean, it's not really impressive. Again, it'll get you wins because the offense is deep, but I don't know if it's going to win you playoff series, which is something that they couldn't do last year in the ALCS. Now, offensively, they traded Hunter Renfroe, added Jackie Bradley Jr., also brought in some prospects. I think this has a lot to do with the fact that, yes, the Red Sox defense wasn't bad last year, but overall it really wasn't great. Kike Hernandez has the versatility. So right now with your roster, you can use him in a more versatile role, which you couldn't do before making this trade. Jackie Bradley Jr. is one of the worst offensive players in Major League Baseball, so you're going to have to fit him in the 9 spot and kind of hope that you can get consistent production from the guys in the top 5, which you are expected to do. But Chaim Bloom's receiving a little heat right now because right now he can't add a power bat, which is obvious that he needs to add at the 6th spot in this batting order. So a little boring, but at the end of the day, Jackie Bradley Jr. is one of the best gloves in Major League Baseball. I think securing him in center field, knowing the outfield in Fenway Park is going to be huge. It's going to make the life of anyone in right field and Alex Verdugo a lot easier. The infield's still a question mark. I think Kike has the chance to play a lot of second base next year, depending on when Jeter Downs and Jarren Duran get called up to the major leagues. Obviously, Christian Arroyo is someone you're going to rely on to play against lefties and does provide some other infield versatility. And a versatile infielder, someone like a Jose Iglesias, who was a perfect fit on this team last year, is another position this Red Sox team needs because I don't know who's backing up shortstop or third base if Devers or Bogarts need a day off. But the Red Sox went a Tampa Bay Rays type approach with their former Tampa Bay Rays front office member. And, they have good defense and depth in the rotation. But right now, if they want to compete in the American League East with Toronto improving and Tampa still being Tampa, I think they need some better pitchers in the middle of this rotation, some more reliable arms in the back of the pen. I like the offense, but I still think they have some moves they still need to make. And unfortunately, they can't make it till this lockout ends.
Yeah. I don't disagree with that. I think Chaim, all things considered, he's doing it okay. Like, he's doing a decent job. But you're right. I think there's still definitely holes in that pitching rotation because while it's nice to take a flyer on a few guys, those aren't what usually wins you the big games come October.
Yeah. I mean, I would have loved if they could have paid any of these pitchers, Stroman, Gausman. I mean, all of their contracts, I think, were pretty fair, in my opinion. I'm not surprised the Red Sox didn't want to give a 5-year deal to a pitcher, which is why I mentioned Stroman earlier in the show. But, obviously it's going to be tough losing Hunter Renfroe. He fit in so well in this order. Sometimes he hit 2, 6, 7, 5 when there was an injury. His year-by-year splits are a little inconsistent, so maybe they're kind of selling him while he's high, and I think the prospect return has a lot to do with why Chaim wanted to make this trade. But good luck for him on the Brewers next year. I think he's exactly what the Brewers need. A power bat who's still solid defensively. He has a missile of an arm, even though sometimes he could have tracking issues. But Hunter Renfroe's legit. He is legit. And I think he's going to fit in very well in right field for the Milwaukee Brewers. But, hey, we know what we're getting out of Bradley. Nothing too impressive offensively, but it's going to make everyone's life a hell of a lot easier having a gold glove right in the center of their outfield.
Absolutely. Boys, this has been incredible. What a show. This is absolutely what I needed on my Friday afternoon. So we gave you guys the lowdown on the MLB lockout, our thoughts. If it's still going in March, we'll have to have the boys back on to hopefully have some more information. Yeah, we'll see you in March, dude.
No, I think we will.
We'll mark it down now. And we also gave you a little free agency talk as well. Awesome conversation with Alec and Hank. Let's tell the people where to find you guys. Alec, I'll start with you.
All right, so you can find me on Down the Block Sports. I'm only on YouTube. I know you guys are on much more forms of social media than my lazy self. So if you want to check me out, I am on Facebook. Or I'm on YouTube at Down the Block Sports. Doing pretty well lately. Unfortunate with no more baseball talk. I'm going to have to find some new things to talk about, but definitely give me a sub. I'm getting close to where I want to be with my goals. So, again, you would find me just on YouTube. That's where I'm going to post all my sports content.
Awesome.
All right. Then, no, I can never accuse you of being lazy since I often see a video coming out of you every day.
Dude, fucking content machine over here talking about lazy. I see him
besides,
posting like 5 different things a day.
Besides, he knows a good Yankee fan that's willing to bring him on to talk baseball on any time. So there's that. But in any event,
off season.
Yeah, no, it's been. Don't get me back on that. Started on that again. But in any event, where to find me, you can find me at Review and Preview Sports. I am the host of 2 shows there during the baseball season. You can find, well, depending on when my shows are on, like in the first half, chances are you'll probably find me Thursday nights at 7. But then once football goes on, that's when I move my show to 7 p.m., same time, but different day, Wednesday nights. And the reason now, why would I have to move my show during the later part of the baseball season, you might ask? Well, that's because of the other show that I do for Review and Preview Sports, and that's Big Blue Avenue, where sometimes I will sit and rant about the New York Giants, but it's always a good time talking some football with the main man at Review and Preview, Tom Scavetta, and you can find us every Thursday at 7. We have had Andy on that show once. Actually, I believe, Andy, you were one of the first guests we ever had on that show, believe it or not. So
I think I've been on twice. I think I've been on Big Blue Avenue twice. I've been on 5, maybe 6 of the...
You've been on at least one of our
five timers club. I haven't been on the wrestling show because I'm not a big wrestling guy, so I probably wouldn't bring much to that conversation. But still, I'm Reviewing Preview's favorite guest. That's what I like to call myself. I'm the 6th man off the bench whenever you guys need me. I am excited. You know, the Bears do play the Giants. I think it's New Year's Eve. So
yes, I would imagine we will definitely.
Exciting matchup. Everyone get on the edge of your seat.
Yeah, I'm hoping to get a call
Playoff
for that. Make my return.
In addition to that, I also every now and then I'll make recurring appearances on the actual show of Review and Preview. That's always on Tuesdays at 7, and of course, maybe here and there you can catch me making like short breaking news videos where. You'll see I made videos where I talked about the Carlos Correa signing, the Robbie Ray signing, and the Max Scherzer signing. Those are basically short videos. And once MLB goes back up and running again, I'll probably get back to doing those again. But in any event, Review and Preview Sports, we are on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And of course, you can also subscribe to us on YouTube. We're pretty much in all the big 4 where you can find us.
Yeah. Unlike Alec, just using the one platform, they are spreading themselves everywhere. Check out Review and Preview Sports. Check out Down the Block Sports. Incredible content from both of these gentlemen. Great friends of the program. So always excited when you get to chat, whether it's on this show or either one of your respective shows. Love the conversation we had today. This is episode 89 of the Brew Party podcast, MLB Lockout, MLB Free Agency. Check us out on Twitter, on Instagram, at The Brew Party. We're on Facebook at The Brew Party Podcast. Subscribe to the YouTube, youtube.com/The Brew Party. I think that's all I got. So we are getting out of here. Andy Hopper, as always, signing off. Thanking you for listening, watching, however you're consuming the content. I appreciate you. Appreciate you for joining the party. Thanks to Hank and Alec. We're out of here.